Here she is. Willamette, Colorado. Population 53,594. Distinguishing characteristics? Jack shit. About the only thing to do in this town is kill time at the shopping mall.
Okay, so there are some filler 360 titles flying about that are just up-res PS2 ports. But elsewhere, the new tech really was being used to do something a bit different. Capcom weren't satisfied with completely revolutionising the original survival horror franchise last year with Resident Evil 4, leaving everyone else scrambling to catch up with their third-person action games. They wanted to make a splash in the new generation early on, and they once again used zombies to do it. While it began life as a sequel to Shadow of Rome, believe it or not, Dead Rising, once it was fully retooled as a zombie survivor game, was conceived as a bit of a tech demo of what the Xbox 360 could do. I remember they made a joke about how Sony demonstrated the power of the PlayStation by showing how many rubber ducks could be rendered in real time all at once in a single virtual space, all governed by individual physics. Well, the Xbox can do the same, but with zombies. This became a big part of the marketing about what made this project unique, the idea that there could be literally hundreds of zombies on screen at any one time, as would be the case in an actual zombie apocalypse. This was something quite new, and promised an entirely different experience from the survival horror we'd become used to. There are multiple instances throughout the game that seem specifically designed purely to show this off. The vast, sprawling corridors of Willamette are initially not too crowded, but become more so as the game wears on, to the point that they become quite difficult to avoid. There's a zombie kill counter in the bottom corner that just begs you to rack up the bodies, and there's an entire underground tunnel network that you can absolutely mow through a sea of the bastards. Oh yes, and of course there's that finale. But it would be unfair to call this a glorified tech demo. There's a pretty engaging adventure in here too. You are Frank West, photojournalist extraordinaire. Give them your resume, Frank.
Say the line, Bart!
I've covered wars, you know.
Good lad. All the hits here on Promotional Whitenoise, they're all here. Anyway, you're trapped in the mall waiting for rescue, and while you're here you'll be looking to uncover the mystery of how the zombie outbreak occurred. Of course this'll mean some sort of big government/pharma conspiracy. It's all pretty standard stuff, but it's entertaining, and the characters you interact with are just about interesting enough to push you through the main campaign.
Who are you guys, anyway? And what are you... I took that one near the entrance. That guy do something?
Nope. Thanks for showing me, though.
You'd also be escorting a bunch of survivors to the safe haven of the security room, working against their absolutely lemming-like desire to die at every turn. You do this to earn XP, which will level Frank up and provide a random boost to stats. You don't get to choose. Sometimes it'll be more health, sometimes you'll get an extra inventory slot, sometimes you'll get a new combat move to perform. And that's reward enough to keep you pretty invested in looking for side quests to complete. Of course, the other way you can earn XP is by doing what Frank does best: take photos. At any time, Frank can whip out the camera and take a shot, which is then graded by the computer based on what kind of stuff's in the frame, be it gore, action, violence, or maybe even something a bit saucy.
Fantastic!
And then you get the XP. The numbers must go up. Described like this, it all sounds a bit pedestrian, but there are a couple of special features that spice things up. First and most notably, the game runs on a real-time clock and requires you to achieve objectives and be in locations by specific times in order for you to progress. We'd become used to games progressing when we decided to, by triggering a story sequence, but this gives Dead Rising the feel of a world that exists without you. The events of Willamette Mall will unfold with or without your involvement. It's up to you to keep up, and that adds an additional sense of tension and realism to proceedings, even as the cartoon silliness has been ramped up, if anything, from the Resident Evil series. That said, it also does result in a lot of waiting around. In theory, this gives you time to search about for side missions, of which there are plenty, and rescue survivors, but it can get a bit tedious waiting 6 or 8 in-game hours for something to happen in the main story. There is a palpable sense of freedom in how almost everything seems interactable though. This might be a much smaller world to explore than the GTA games, but here every shop can be entered and each one has multiple products that can be used. You can eat or drink whatever you can find to refill your health. You can read magazines or books to increase your stats. You can use all kinds of items as weapons, like just throwing CDs around as ninja stars. You can also dress Frank up in any bit of clothing you can find in any store, and those choices are reflected in the cutscenes, so you can create a really very silly tone if it takes your fancy.
There's a helicopter coming. 3 days from now. At noon, it's my ride.
So there's a childlike fantasy of being locked overnight in the mall, running underneath this whole zombie outbreak thing. Another unique feature here is perhaps a bit more divisive, and that's the game being designed to be restarted multiple times before you can finish it. There's absolutely no way you can get to the end on your first attempt, you just can't level up fast enough. The game is designed to encourage you to explore, to learn the layout, and all the locations you need to get to, as well as gain as much XP as possible, which you keep when you die, so when you restart, while you do go back to the beginning of the story, you start with your leveled up character and way more knowledge. You'll probably need to do this at least 3 or 4 times your first go around, and that might be a deal breaker for some due to the repetition of those first few hours of gameplay. But while it was jarring at first, I found myself coming to really enjoy it. I found a good sense of satisfaction about coming into the world each time feeling more powerful, until I was finally able to brute force my way through the previously impossible sections. And I should mention the really standout feature of the game is the psychopaths. These human characters have been sent mad by the zombie outbreak and have snapped, so now they're an even bigger threat than the undead. They all have their own super creepy and or tragic backstories and are introduced with cool cutscenes, and they provide a pretty steep boss fight challenge even when you're reasonably well leveled up. But they add a good bit of colour and character to proceedings and easily constitute the most memorable moments of the game.
This is my store! You came to vandalize my store! Huh? Not on my watch!
With all that said, the combat is clunky, weapon degradation is always infuriating in any context, and did I mention the retarded AI?
We're very, very stupid.
Also, the fact that guns are completely useless is really weird. Seriously, every gun in the game feels like a pea shooter. They do almost no damage, unless they're pointed at Frank, of course. But it's amazing how much we were willing to look past the serious flaws here in the early days of a new generation, when this genuinely looked properly stunning. As I've mentioned, this is probably the last time we saw such an enormous leap in visual fidelity between generations, and the character models here in particular really stand out as being demonstrative of what this new hardware could do. Just look at these faces. Seriously, we were still playing games that looked like this when Dead Rising came out. And we're all graphics whores to some degree. Don't lie, I know you are. This was an important title and one I spent a long time with. It was the game that really made me feel like the true next generation had arrived, and things would only get more impressive from there.
What in the hell is going on